29. Your efforts are more important than the results. What counts in the eyes of heaven is not so much your successes as your efforts, for only your efforts keep you on the right path. Your successes are liable to make you less vigilant. Even if your efforts are not crowned with success, even if you seem to get no results, it doesn't matter. At least you have been working. Don't ask for success, therefore. It doesn't depend on you, but on heaven. And it will come when heaven decides that the time is ripe. The only thing that depends on you is to make an effort, for heaven cannot make it for you, just as no one else can eat in your place. Heaven cannot eat, that is to say, cannot make your efforts for you. It is up to you to make them. But where success is concerned, it is a different matter. Heaven decides when and how it will come, according to what is best for your evolution. Actually, our efforts contain their own reward. After every effort, every exercise of the mind, life takes on a different color and a different flavor. Work, therefore, without trying to set a deadline for the achievement of your spiritual aspirations. If you decide that you will obtain this or that result in your inner life or conquer this or that weakness by a specific date, you will only succeed in becoming tense, and your spiritual development will be less harmonious. You must work towards perfecting yourself, but without setting a time limit. Work in the thought that you have eternity ahead of you, and that sooner or later you will achieve the perfection you long for. Let yourself dwell only on the beauty of the work you have undertaken, and tell yourself, "It is so beautiful that I don't care how many hundreds or thousands of years it takes to complete it." 30. Accept your failures. If someone sees that he is not capable of manifesting the qualities that he has been working at, he must not give way to discouragement or revolt. He must be humble in the face of failure. Otherwise, it means that he is not reasoning correctly, and this is always because his lower nature has managed to slip in when conditions were right. When you fail, it is as though heaven sent certain entities or circumstances to you, telling them, "Go and nip at him, go and tease him, let's just see what happens." And what happens is a turmoil that proves that you were not ready for trials. Failure should neither sadden or discourage you. If it does, that simply shows that you are conceited enough to expect something that is still out of reach. And if you don't overcome your disappointment, you will end up by destroying yourself. You are permitted to be sad, but only because of the lack of success or the misfortunes of others, not because you have failed to fulfill your own desires, ambitions, or pretentious expectations. Instead of rebelling or being discouraged, if you are having great difficulty in acquiring a quality, conquering a failing, or overcoming a bad habit, remind yourself that everything is more difficult because, in the past, you did not do your work properly. Tell yourself this, and then get back to work at once. Yes, even if you have only a year to live, only 1 year, you must keep working. Keep at it. You will see all the changes that come about if you do this, for if we have tried sincerely to perfect ourselves, we take with us all the spiritual acquisitions that our efforts have earned. 31. The imagination as a means in our work to improve ourselves. When we see how difficult it is to overcome our faults, we often feel unhappy and discouraged. Whereas, instead of dwelling on our feelings, which are the consequence of disorders we have indulged in the past, we would do far better to turn our attention to the work that lies before us. Tell yourself, I'm going to rebuild and repair everything, and then every day, with unshakable faith and absolute conviction, work towards that goal. That is to say, take the elements that God has given you, your imagination, and your thoughts and feelings, and recreate yourself, remodel yourself into what you want to be. Picture yourself surrounded by light, supporting with your love and generosity those who need them, and standing firm in the face of difficulties and temptations. Little by little, the images that you form of these qualities will come alive and influence you. They will transform you and, at the same time, work to draw into you from the universe all the corresponding elements. To be sure, it takes a great deal of time and work to produce results, but you need never doubt that one day the results will show themselves. You will feel the presence of a living entity hovering over you to protect, instruct, purify, and enlighten you. And when things get difficult, to give you the support you need. If you form this mental image of perfection for a long time, it will gradually descend and materialize on the physical plane. 32. Music as an aid to spiritual work. Learn to use music in your inner work. It will help you to fulfill all your noblest desires. You wish for so many good things, but you don't know what to do to achieve them. This is where music comes in. It can be a tremendous help in achieving concrete results. When you listen to music, instead of letting your thoughts drift aimlessly, focus on whatever it is you most desire. If it is health, for instance, see yourself as a being so full of health and vitality that whatever you do, whether you walk or talk or eat, health radiates from you and makes everyone around you well. If light intelligence is what you need most, use music to help you imagine that you are learning and understanding that light penetrates your being and that you amplify it and give it to others. And you can do the same thing for beauty, strength, willpower, or perseverance. Work in this way in every area in which you feel a lack. 33. The beneficial influence of a spiritual collectivity. So many people sense that they are not on the right path. Their soul and conscience rebel against their way of life, and they decide to change. To begin with, all goes well, and then, once again, they are led astray. Once again, they regret their weakness. They pray and decide to do better, but, as before, their good intentions are short-lived. To be sure, it is already something to realize that one is on the wrong road, but it is not enough. It is essential to preserve in one's good resolutions. This is why a spiritual collectivity a spiritual brotherhood is so necessary, indispensable, in fact, for our spiritual well-being, because it gives us the conditions we need to keep to the right road. When someone is tired and ready to abandon everything, he will be encouraged and stimulated by the sight of others who are persevering. Apart from a few very exceptional cases, human beings need to be supported and stimulated, for there are always moments when their spiritual ardor flags. You will perhaps say that you have no desire to be influenced, that you wish to be free to do as you like, and that for this reason you don't want to join a collectivity in which you would feel restricted. Well, this just shows how unintelligent you are. Someone who is intelligent knows very well that he needs to be protected, so he puts himself in a situation in which he will be prevented from doing anything foolish and free, on the other hand, to undertake luminous, beneficial activities. 34. Rely on nothing but your own work. As long as your activities do good and are disinterested, you can trust the divine laws. Sooner or later, your efforts will receive their reward. Every word you utter, every gesture you make, every one of your thoughts and desires are recorded and classified, and one day they will produce results. This is the law that you must count on. Everything is liable to change except this law. Your friends can betray you, your family can be busy elsewhere and forget you. But this law will always be there to give you exactly what you deserve depending on how you have worked. Rely on nothing but your own work. You will say, what about the Lord and all the angels and saints? Can't we count on them to help us? Yes, you can, but only if you have done your own work. If you have not sown any seeds, however much you call on the Lord to help you, you will not get anything to grow. The Lord has instituted certain laws, and it is up to human beings to know them. He is certainly not going to upset the order of the universe in order to please somebody who is ignorant because he has chosen not to know them. Sow a seed, and all the laws of the universe will contribute to making it grow. And this means that you must rely first and foremost on your own work, and secondly, on the Lord. That is to say, on the laws of the universe. 35. Live in an atmosphere of poetry. When you go into the streets or into offices and shops, when you take a train or a bus, wherever you go, almost all the faces you see are gloomy, sad, tense, aloof, or hostile. It is not a sight to gladden your heart. In fact, even if a person has no reason to feel sad or out of sorts to start with, he cannot help but be affected by such a negative atmosphere, and as likely as not, he will go home with a feeling of malaise, which he will pass on to his whole family. This is the deplorable kind of life that human beings continually create for each other. Why do they never make an effort to show others a bright, open, smiling face? They don't know how to live a poetic life, thanks to which they would be a constant delight to others. True poetry is not confined to literature. True poetry is a quality of the inner life. Everyone appreciates the arts, painting, music, dance, sculpture, etc. But why don't they bring their lives into harmony with the colors, rhythms, forms, and melodies they love. The thing we look for and love in people is their quality of poetry. We need to see, feel, and breathe something ethereal and luminous, something that soothes, harmonizes, and inspires us. But as so few understand this, almost everybody goes through life without a thought for the painful impression they make on others. There they are, looking thoroughly grouchy and ill-humored, frowning and tight-lipped, with an expression of distrust in their eyes. And even when they employ various stratagems to make themselves more appealing, the flatness and dreariness of their inner life cannot help but transpire. Henceforth, therefore, you must no longer leave poetry to the poets who write it. It is your life that must be poetic. Yes, the true Art Nouveau is to learn to create and diffuse poetry all around oneself, to be cordial, expressive, luminous, and vibrant. 36. Self-knowledge is indispensable to success. If you don't know yourself well, if you are not lucid about your strengths and weaknesses, your qualities and defects, you will never succeed in what you undertake, and, especially, you will never be able to live harmoniously with other people. Your ignorance will inevitably lead to complications, conflict, and quarrels. In fact, it would be true to say that most of the difficulties people meet with in their everyday lives stem from the fact that they don't know themselves. The one subject about which people delude themselves most is their own worth, their own character and abilities, and this ignorance can be very grave. It can expose them to great dangers. Everything you undertake in your personal and social life will be in danger of coming to grief if it's not based on a lucid appreciation of your character and abilities. 37. Start off on the right foot. The quality of your work, the successes you achieve, or the defeats you suffer all depend on your state of mind and the intentions that motivate you when you take the first step in a new undertaking. You will perhaps think it's strange that a whole series of circumstances should depend on one little detail, but you only have to look carefully at yourself to see the truth of what I say. If you are in a state of agitation when you set out to meet someone, you will stir up chaotic forces around you. And then what happens? Suppose that you have to settle a rather delicate matter with a person you are going to see. While you are on your way, the forces you have stirred into action will do their work of destruction within you, and by the time you reach your destination, your state of mind will have gone from bad to worse. How can you expect to settle anything in these conditions? Whereas, if you try to achieve an inner state of calmness and serenity and great love, and set out in that frame of mind, the nearer you get to your destination, the better will be your inner state, and the greater your chances of concluding your business satisfactorily. This is what it means to start off on the right foot. 38. Avoid expressing your dissatisfaction. Very few people realize how terribly destructive it is always to be dissatisfied with everything and everyone, and to create a climate of disharmony wherever one goes. Dissatisfaction is acceptable only if it is aimed at oneself. Someone who never stops complaining and expressing his displeasure with God, life, and the rest of the world must be warned that this destructive attitude will lead him to make all kinds of mistakes. And as a discontented man cannot prevent his feelings from showing, his face will become somber, his eyes lackluster, his voice harsh, and his gestures brusque, all of which will make him very unattractive to others. For although people tend to see discontent as a sign of intelligence, they don't find it easy to get on with those who are always discontented. In fact, they tend to keep well away from them. How can anyone take pleasure in the company of those who never open their mouths without criticizing and poisoning the atmosphere with their complaints and recriminations? 39. Never go empty-handed to others. In every country in the world, it is the custom to take a present when you go to visit someone. This is a very ancient tradition based on a law according to which one must always have the desire to give something when one approaches others. If you are always empty-handed, physically or symbolically, when you go to see your friends, they will end by losing all affection for you. They will say, "What kind of a man is he? He is always empty when he comes, and by the time he leaves, he has emptied me too."
They will begin to be wary of you
and keep you at arm's length, and in the long run, close the doors of their heart and soul to you completely. Don't go and see your friends
if you cannot even
take them a smile, a kind look, a few warm words, for these are gifts that are alive. You must get into the habit of giving that which is most beneficial to others. If you know how to work with the positive forces of nature, others will love and appreciate you. And since every gesture has magical significance, never greet someone with an empty container in your hand, especially in the morning, because without meaning to do so, you will be wishing him emptiness, poverty, and failure for the rest of the day. If you really have to carry an empty container, put something into it. It doesn't have to be anything valuable. It can be water, which is the most precious thing there is in the eyes of the Creator, or anything else. And then you can greet your friends with the thought that you are bringing them gifts of health, fulfillment, and happiness. Never forget that you have a magnificent garden within you, and that you can distribute your flowers and fruits to everyone you meet. If you have this desire always to give something of your own soul and spirit, life will never cease to flow within you. 40. The hand is a means of communication and exchange. The importance of our hands is very evident in everyday life, because we use them to communicate with other people. When people meet or separate, what do? They raise their arm in greeting or shake hands. This is why you should be extremely careful about what you give with your hands. If you greet someone, it is in order to give him something good. A person who is incapable of giving shows how poor and wretched he is. Of course, for many people, a handshake is an empty mechanical gesture. In this case, it would be better not to make any gesture at all. But for those who are fully conscious, it can be an extremely significant, effective gesture by which they can encourage, console, and vivify others, and give them a great deal of love. A greeting should be a true communication. It should be a cordial, harmonious gesture. When you shake a person's hand, you should feel the current passing between you. To do this, as you are giving him your hand, wish him health, peace, and light, and breathe deeply. Discreetly, of course, for a deep breath will make your exchange harmonious. 41. Let your eyes radiate divine life. Most human beings have learned to control their words and gestures to a certain extent. They don't start punching every individual who irritates them or kissing everyone who attracts them. They don't tell everyone with brutal frankness exactly what they think of them, but they have still not learned to control their eyes, and their glances continue to express lust, sensuality, contempt, or hostility. No one has ever been condemned for a look, because its effects are not as visible on the physical plane as those of a gesture or a word. And yet, what havoc a look can cause on a subtle plane. To look is to project forces and energies, and these forces and energies may be either beneficial or destructive, dark or luminous. This is why you must learn to control and educate your glance so that its effects will always be beneficial. The spiritual life also begins with the education of your eyes. Just as the sun looks at us and sends us vivifying waves of light every day, always try to look at people with light and disinterested love. Wherever you go, try to transmit a few rays of divine life to all those you meet by looking at them with unclouded sincerity and warmth. 42. Don't talk about your trials and tribulations. In the belief that your trials and tribulations are bound to interest people and touch their hearts, you continually let everybody know about them. But others have only one idea in mind when they see you coming: how to get rid of you as quickly as possible. Yes, unfortunately or fortunately, human nature is like that. If you want to scare everybody off, keep talking about your illnesses and all your worries and sorrows, and you will soon see how many people listen. What a stupid attitude this is. You would do much better to keep quiet about all those details. Generally speaking, other people are not capable of helping you to find solutions to your problems. So why talk about them? They can't do anything about them, and the result is that not only do you waste your time by talking about your private life to no purpose, but you lower yourself in other people's eyes and lose their esteem. They realize that you are neither intelligent nor strong, and they try to avoid you. If you want to keep your friends, hide your troubles from them. Don't talk about them, don't complain. Instead, turn to the heavenly powers above, to all those entities of light that are there, ready to give you the help you need. When you do this, you become stronger and more powerful and luminous. And the strength and light emanating from you will attract others. They will see that you are not like everybody else, that you bear your difficulties and trials without complaining. They will admire you for this and turn to you in the desire to imitate you and even draw strength from you. In this way, they will be your friends for all eternity, however great your difficulties may be. Therefore, don't burden others with them. Thanks to your efforts to be disinterested, generous, and courageous, not only will you solve your problems more easily, but heavenly entities will see the gigantic work you are doing on yourself and come and help you. 43. Avoid criticism. Speak constructively.
Many people have never learned
To control their thoughts and feelings and are always ready to say all kinds of things about others. You must realize that this is a very serious matter, for if you slander someone and take away his good name or cast a slur on his honor, the consequences may be very detrimental to him and to his evolution, and heaven will hold you responsible. To be sure, you will probably say, "I didn't really mean it." Perhaps not, but you must realize that malicious spirits get hold of our negative words and sooner or later cause them to materialize. Our words are the material medium they need in order to carry out their evil designs. It is not they who are to blame. It is up to us not to supply them with the means to do evil. You must be on your guard, therefore, as soon as you realize that you have gone too far in your criticism or accusations. You must immediately try to find other words, other thoughts, and forces
capable of repairing the damage you have done.
This is the only way to be sure that the law will acquit you. Make it a rule never to end a conversation on a negative note. If you have been obliged to say something justifiably critical about someone, always try to end by saying something positive about him. There is always some good in every human being. Think of at least one of his good qualities, mention it, and then say no more. A good way of evaluating yourself and your degree of evolution is to analyze your words. Do you speak thoughtlessly or venomously about others? Is what you say disjointed or exaggerated? Do you speak out of self-interest? Once you have analyzed yourself, be on your guard, and before saying something, ask yourself why you want to say it. Is it in order to do good, to enlighten, heal, or liberate someone? Or is it because you want to lead them astray, settle an old score, or humiliate them, and in this way gratify the tendencies of your lower nature? In this case, you would do better to keep quiet. In any case, it's generally better to talk less. It is often by their words that people hold themselves back and hinder their evolution. Pay attention to this question in the future, therefore. When you are with other people, always try to choose useful, constructive subjects of conversation, so that each person may go home thinking, "Bless them for all their good words, which have renewed my courage and allowed me to see things in a better light, which have strengthened my desire to stick to the path of light." Man's tongue was not given to him to be used as a means to belittle or annihilate others. Its mission is to help those who have fallen to pick themselves up, to enlighten those who are in darkness, to guide those who have lost their way. The tongue was given to man for the sole purpose of blessing, giving thanks, and communicating with others in wisdom, justice, and love. Sooner or later, in this incarnation or the next, those who don't realize how great a treasure they possess will lose it.